A woman who survived being shot 10 times has a warning now for other women tonight.
Her ex-boyfriend kidnapped her, shot her, then drove her through multiple counties. And now she hopes she can inspire women to leave abusive relationships.
I'm sorry.
Shamay Pitt did not think she would survive it.
Right here, I have a bullet wound.
She says on November 2nd, in a fit of rage, her ex-boyfriend Joshua Woodruff shot her 10 times.
I see the inside of me on the outside.
Pitt tells me she agreed to meet with her ex to talk. She says that conversation turned violent and there was a struggle inside of her car.
He steps back, he steps forward, and he starts shooting me. My ears are ringing, but I come into realization that he's shooting at me.
Pitt says Woodruff then drove her from Snapfinger Road in DeKalb County to Douglasville. At one point, she says she heard Woodruff make 2 phone calls.
Basically asked them what to do with my body. I'm scared. I asked him, can I just write? Can I just write a letter to my son?
Pitt says Woodruff eventually abandoned her at a hospital while paramedics rushed her to another hospital in critical condition. Security detained Woodruff. Police charged the 25-year-old with aggravated assault and false imprisonment. Pitt's mother says she wants the charges upgraded.
He needs to be charged for bringing over county lines. He needs to be federally charged for having an automatic switch, which is a federal offense.
A few days ago, the Fulton County DA said Atlanta is under a domestic violence epidemic with nearly 1,000 felony cases pending. Pitt says she hopes more people in an abusive relationship will get out before it's too late.
You see that red flag, run away.
And Woodruff is due in court tomorrow. As for Pitt's hospital bills, they are extensive. Her friends and family, they are holding a fundraiser for her on December 2nd. There's also a GoFundMe page to help with some of those expenses.
I could feel the blood, the pain. Everything inside me, it was like it was coming out. I seen the inside of me on the outside. These are the haunting words of Shamay Pitt, moments after being shot 10 times by her ex-boyfriend, Joshua Woodruff. The pain was unbearable, the reality even worse. She was left for dead, trapped in her car, and yet she survived. But not without a fight. If you're hooked already and want to dive deeper into stories like this that demand justice, hit that like button, subscribe to Crimelab Report, and smash the bell, because missing out means these cases stay in the shadows longer than they should. Shamay Pitt was a mother, a daughter, a woman with a life full of promise until the fateful night her life was turned upside down. She had been in a relationship with Joshua Woodruff, a man she once trusted, a man she thought she could work things out with. But what started as a relationship full of hope ended in a horrific, violent betrayal. At just 23 years old, Shamay found herself fighting for her life after her ex-boyfriend shot her 10 times. It all began like any other breakup. Relationships can be complicated, and like so many, Shamay had been trying to move on from a relationship that was anything but easy. Joshua had shown controlling behavior, emotional manipulation, a pattern that many people in toxic relationships can relate to but often don't see until it's too late. They broke up. It was over, or so she thought. Shamay had a child, and as any mother knows, life gets complicated when trying to balance everything. As she tried to heal from the emotional scars of the relationship, she was faced with an ex who couldn't accept it. Joshua, in his mid-20s, couldn't let go. But this wasn't just about him wanting closure. This was about a man who couldn't stand to lose control. A man whose sense of ownership and entitlement turned fatal. Their story, like many others, seemed to spiral into a toxic, controlling nightmare. Joshua manipulated his way back into Shamay's life under the guise of needing to talk. It's a familiar tactic in many abusive relationships. The victim is told, "We need closure," or "We need to talk," but in reality, it's often an attempt to regain control. Shamay, hopeful that they could have an amicable discussion, agreed to meet with him that night, not knowing it would be the last moment of peace she would have. That night, Shamay picked Joshua up. They drove in her car, probably heading somewhere to talk. Somewhere neutral, a place where they could both say their piece and finally put the past behind them. But instead, Joshua had something far darker in mind. As they were driving, the words, "Let's talk," quickly turned into something else. Shamay was shot 10 times. According to her accounts later, she felt the impact in her body but couldn't quite comprehend the severity at first. The pain, the shock, it all happened so fast. She was caught off guard, the man she trusted, the man she once loved, pulling the trigger again and again. The gunshots rang out, each one a reminder of how things had gone from bad to worse. 10 shots. 10 chances to escape. But no, Shamay was left there in the passenger seat of her own car, the life draining from her body. What happened next was even more chilling. Stick around, because the next part of this story is where things take an even darker turn. Joshua didn't stop at shooting Shamay. He did something far worse. Instead of calling for help or even taking her to a hospital, he drove around for hours. Imagine the horror of bleeding, struggling to stay conscious, begging for help, yet hearing nothing but the hum of the car's engine as Joshua callously drove. Shamay, severely wounded, was trapped in the passenger seat. The pain was excruciating, but the emotional betrayal was what hurt her the most. This wasn't just an attack, it was an act of control. Joshua had taken away her power, her voice, and he was deciding her fate. Her mind raced as she thought about her child, her family, her life. Could she survive this? Could she make it through the night? The adrenaline mixed with the panic. She didn't know if she'd make it, but she had one goal: to stay alive. She even begged Joshua to stop the car, to let her get out and breathe. She knew she was running out of time, but in that moment, she didn't want to die in the car. She wanted to breathe, to fight another day. Can you imagine the feeling? Imagine being in her shoes, shot, helpless, and watching your life slip away, all while the person who caused it all shows no remorse. It's chilling to think about how Joshua's indifference to her pain must have made everything worse. There was no urgency, no care, just a cold, calculated journey to wherever he took her next. Shamay remembers the exact words she spoke, even as the pain in her body grew unbearable. She said, "Just lay me on the grass so I can breathe." Her body had already endured so much. She felt her body failing her, the blood loss so severe that she thought she might pass out at any moment. But Joshua didn't stop. He kept driving, leaving her to fend for herself as she fought to stay alive. Eventually, after what must have felt like a lifetime, Joshua drove Shamay to a hospital. Wellstar Douglas Hospital in Douglasville, Georgia, her first real shot at survival. But what's more disturbing is how Joshua tried to play off the situation. He didn't rush her in for treatment or alert anyone to the urgency of her condition. Instead, it wasn't until they reached the hospital that security detained him. He was arrested immediately, but the damage had already been done. Shamay's survival was nothing short of a miracle. She had been shot 10 times, left to bleed out, and yet she was still holding on. What do you think Joshua was thinking during that time? Was he even aware of the depth of what he had done? Or was he so consumed by his need to control Shamay that he didn't care about her life at all? It's a question that lingers, one that adds even more weight to this tragedy. Shamay's survival isn't just a miracle. It's a testament to the strength of a mother's will, to the lengths someone will go to for their family, for their own life. She has lived to tell the story, and every word she says about that night is a reminder of just how far abuse can go. And let's not forget about the toll this takes on her family, her mother, her sister, the people who love her, and now they are left picking up the pieces of what was supposed to be a peaceful life. But the question remains, how does something like this happen? How does a relationship turn from love to violence? We still haven't uncovered all the answers. The investigation is still ongoing, but we do know this. Joshua Woodruff will face serious charges for his actions, and Shamay's story will serve as a warning to others about the dangers of domestic violence and manipulation. Stay with us as we dive deeper into the investigation and unravel what happened in the aftermath of this tragic event. There's still so much to discover, and believe me, you won't want to miss the next part. When the police arrived and took Joshua Woodruff into custody, they were met with a disturbing level of indifference. His arrest didn't seem to faze him. He was charged with false imprisonment and aggravated assault. These charges were just the beginning, though. As the investigation unfolded, Shamay's testimony became crucial to understanding what really happened that night. Her willingness to speak out and share her story gave authorities the insight they needed to build their case. But it also exposed the chilling reality of how abuse can escalate from emotional manipulation to physical violence. The investigation was thorough, with police gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, and piecing together the timeline of events. They spoke to people who knew Joshua and Shamay, trying to understand their relationship and what led up to that fateful night. It wasn't just about tracking Joshua's movements or the hours he spent driving Shamay around. There were deeper questions about the dynamics of their relationship. Authorities quickly learned that Joshua had been emotionally controlling and manipulative for a long time. But that wasn't enough. They needed more. They needed to understand why someone would take things to such a brutal extreme. While Joshua remained mostly silent, Shamay's family, her mother, sister, and others, were left to pick up the pieces. They had witnessed the transformation of a loving, happy young woman into someone scarred by violence, yet determined to survive. They rallied around her, supporting her recovery both physically and emotionally. It's hard to imagine what it must have been like for them, watching someone they loved go through such an ordeal. As the case moved forward, there was no denying the impact on Shamay's family and her community. The ripple effect was far-reaching. Her story wasn't just about a crime. It was a reminder to everyone who heard it that domestic violence can happen to anyone, even those who seem to have it all together. But it also sparked important conversations about the signs of abuse, about how many people find themselves trapped in toxic relationships, and how crucial it is to get out before it's too late. Shamay has said that survival was her driving force through it all. For her, it wasn't just about getting through the night. It was about ensuring that the story of what happened to her would be told. And in a sense, by sharing it with the world, she's doing something even bigger than just seeking justice for herself. She's helping others see the signs, understand the danger, and maybe, just maybe, save a life. But the case didn't end with Joshua's arrest. The trial, the legal proceedings, and the sentencing are all still on the horizon. And as we've seen in many cases like this, the legal system can be a long, drawn-out process. There are often setbacks, delays, and legal maneuvering that can leave victims feeling like justice is slipping through their fingers. Yet, Shamay's courage throughout this process will likely remain an inspiration for others facing similar situations. Her refusal to stay silent, her decision to fight, is a powerful message. In the aftermath of the crime, the impact on society can't be understated. It's stories like Shamay's that ignite the conversation about what it means to be in an abusive relationship and how we can help those who are struggling. It's a painful reminder that abuse isn't always obvious, but it's always there, lurking beneath the surface. So we ask ourselves, what causes someone to cross that line? To go from emotional manipulation to something so extreme? And how can we better protect those who are at risk? These are questions that don't have easy answers, but the conversation must continue. As we wrap up today's story, think about this. How would you cope if something like this happened to your family? How would you respond? The answer isn't simple, but it's important to keep talking about it. We all have a role to play in bringing these stories to light. If you found this story impactful, please share it. Your voice can make a difference. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Crimelab Report for more real stories that need to be heard. Let's keep the conversation going, and together, we can help make sure these cases don't stay in the shadows any longer. Thank you for watching.